So let's discuss problem number 9 from homework section 5.2. In order to solve this problem, it asks you to identify the matching between graphs and the mathematical expressions we have written on the right side. So the minimum expectation I have in general is for you to understand what's the basic graph is like for exponential functions and logarithmic functions. You know that 2 to the x and log 2 to the x, they are inverse function of each other. And you should know that b to the x, and to be more specific in this case, 2 to the x always go through the point 0 to 0, 1. Therefore, it's an inverse function, which by the way is log 2 of x, is going to look like the mirror reflection of that graph with respect to the line y equals x. So this is how I managed to find the basic structure of the function log 2x. What's left for me to do is to identify how should I modify the graph of this function so as to get the other pieces, which we have 4 here. So the first one, if you look at the graph, if you look at the function, it's log 2 to the x goes to that. It's adding something to your function. So if you had called this f of x, this is 3 plus f of x. So in other words, this is a shifting. It's shifted up by 3 units. So you select your curve, right? You select your curve and you move your curve up by 3 units. So this point 1, 0 is now 1, 3. So if you swipe through your whole thing, this one is that goes through 1, 3. So they must be equivalent to each other. So there's a match in between those two. The next problem you have here, if you had your graph being called log 2x as f of x, then this new function is changing your x into x minus 3. So this must be shift, and it's modification in the parentheses, so it's shift towards the right by 3 units. So your graph is going to look something like that. You are further away from the vertical line, which is y equals x. So this is the only thing that looks like that. This is not further away from the x-axis, so they must be matching with each other. So that's how I decide those two must be talking about the same graph. The next thing we have is your function log 2x, and then you modify it, always handle what's inside the parentheses first. So you modify it into f of x plus 4, and then you add a negative sign in the front. So it's a two-step modification. The first step is shift towards the left, it's shift towards the left by 4 units. So your graph is conceptually that something looks like this, which goes through the point negative 3. And then you do a mirror reflection because you add a negative sign in the front, so your graph goes like that. Actually, this is the only one that's going to have a reflection, so it's upside down, so your graph must be that. So that's the connection between those two. Well, last but not least, it's pretty easy to guess those two would be matching with each other, but it doesn't hurt for us to do a quick discussion. Begin with log 2 to the x. If you call that f of x, you want to have negative 4 add to that. In other words, you have negative 4 add to your function f of x. So it's basically, it's shifting downwards by 4 units. So you were here and you shift downwards, so you are further away from the horizontal line, which is x-axis, which is exactly what's going on here. You were further away. So this is how you can make a quick decision about how graphs and functions will be matching with each other.